to the Slay to Success talk show. Y'all know what time it is. My name is Rochelle Slay Queen Hemingway, and I am your host. I am the CEO and founder of Slay to Success. That's right, Slay to Success. I am a speaker, author of the book titled Slay to Success, a mentor, and a 30-year United States Air Force veteran. So, what is Slay to Success? Slay to Success is a leadership and transformational consultant service business, and it is designed to help women who are working in executive leadership roles or women who are transitioning out of a long career, 20 plus career, if you will, who want to step up and step into their next big dream, goal, or aspiration with 10x confidence, knowing and stepping into that personal brand so they can reach their desired success. And so, what do I do, y'all? You know what I do. I do a lot of different things. I have programs, I have workshops, I speak, I go out and do women empowerment events. I am doing the most. So, if you, my queen, are interested in any of these things that I have, I want you to get your phone out and making sure that you are scanning this QR code that I'm going to bring up, y'all. Okay. If you want to know about all the Slay to Success happenings, go ahead and scan the code. Okay. And then you will be put out on the list and you won't miss out on anything. You won't be seeing things that are happening like, I really wish I could have been there if I would have known. So, hey, K-Ron, welcome to the Slay to Success show. Thank you for being here. So as you all are coming in and viewing, make sure you put down where you're coming in from and what do you do and how you do it. Just get on here and let us know so that way we can give you the love. All right, because all right, I see a couple of y'all are here. So just go ahead and let us know. And then I will just put this little tickler here for you so you know, okay? Tell us your name and where you're streaming in from. So what is the purpose of this show? The purpose of this talk show is to highlight men and women who are living a life of service on their own terms and using the slay philosophies to positively impact the world. So the word slay means to kill it, to dominate it, and to nail it, to impress greatly, to be on point, to dream and work hard until you own it. And that SLAY also stands for life and leadership philosophies that we all can use in our life. These are universal. Stay ready to be ready. Lead out loud, a sense of community, a sense of family, and knowing you are built to last. So tonight, y'all, we're going to have an amazing show. So yes, we got a lot of folks in the building. So K-Ron, welcome. Michelle, thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Okay, Nildy or Naldi, if I pronounce it wrong, please just charge that to my heart. All right. But thank you for being here. Both of you from Belize. I love that. This is international. International. I know you showed up for Manny. I know you did. Michelle, thank you for being here. I absolutely love it. LaShanta from the ATL. Thank you for being here tonight. We've got Vanity. She is just down the street, y'all. I'm here in Odenton, Maryland. She's down at Fort Meade. So thank you so much for showing up tonight. Veronica from Dayton, Ohio. Thank you so much for streaming through LinkedIn. I see that you're in LinkedIn. So thank you so much for being here tonight. And of course, Christina, greetings, hashtag Slay Queen. She knows what time it is. And so y'all, I am so excited. I am so excited. All right. We have an amazing guest tonight. And he is, your brother. I love that. So your siblings showing up, Manny. Okay, so I have a special guest with me tonight, with us. His name is Manny Pineiro. And if you all don't know who he is, please stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Go grab a notebook and a pen and just settle in, get some tea. I got my own special tea in here, and it is tea. There's nothing alcoholic in here, y'all. All right. But get your beverage of your choice so that way you can listen on this great conversation we're going to have. So, who is Manny? Okay, Manny is an executive coach and professional speaker who is skilled in leadership and character development at all levels of management. And I can vouch for that, okay, because we both served in the United States Air Force together, and I saw this all the time. I was a stalker, all right? I was secretly watching him and taking notes every time he would come up and just give us what we needed so that we can go ahead and take care of the mission and take care of our people. He has a unique ability to connect with organizations and individuals to drive top performance through his natural influence. He has a knack of aligning professional goals with humility, behavioral change, and team building concepts using his positive and enthusiastic attitude. He is a thought leader, y'all, in diversity and resilience who encourages people to be accountable for themselves. He inspires teams to master their moments. His purpose is to have the right interaction of human involvement to support meaningful and impactful change for individuals and employees. His goal is to elevate the individual employee experience to support all aspects of life and deliver positive outcomes for the organizations they serve. His overall mission is to make every moment count. Manny is a 32-year United States Air Force veteran who served in the highest enlisted position, First Sergeant Special Duty Manager for the entire branch of service. In this position, he was responsible for establishing guidance, policy, and management of more than 2,700 regular Air Force, Air National Guard, and Air Force Reserve First Sergeants. He was a trusted advisor and still is, who is called upon for guidance in military, federal, civilian, and private sector organizations, including serving as a presidential appointee to the USO Board of Governors. As a dynamic and energetic speaker, Manny has delivered over 200 keynote addresses to audiences of all sizes around the world. He is sought after for a variety of leadership and business topics and customizes messages for each of the audiences he serves. Please put your hands together for my brother from another mother, but my brother in arms, Manny.
Hey,
Hey,
Slay, what's going on?
you know what's going on. You know what time it is.
Man, after that introduction, I'm about to go get some popcorn. Thank you so much.
You're
I'm
welcome.
so humbled and honored as I shared earlier when we started talking, just to spend some time with you. I seem a little rushed, is because I'm just walking in the door not too long from another trip, but I'll tell you that I am so grateful for you taking the time out to do this.
I am so happy. I mean, all week, you just don't know. I was like, man, I'm going to have Manny Pineiro on my show. And if anyone knows of him, y'all, especially for those have served under his tutelage, you know who he is and what he's about. And so tonight we're just going to get just a little bit of what he does, what he's been doing, and kind of getting an overall sense of how he's impacting and influencing the world. So, Manny, all right, you know I got several questions,
Oh
but
yeah, no doubt.
first,
You
first
know,
of all,
my team did not reach out to ask you for any of them. So
no, because I was like, this is where we just have a conversation. There's
right,
no
that's right.
there's no canned topics here, y'all.
And
All right,
believe me,
so
and I actually said, look, I know her. This is going to be one on one. That basically is real catch up time for us.
yeah, it is. So, um, some of our audience members don't know essentially about the Air Force lingo, if you will. There are some folks that
Oh
never
yeah.
served. So, can you tell the people a little bit about your experience in the military, kind of what you did, what that role was about, and how you were able to, do what you did, and how it affects to what you're doing right now?
Oh well, if great start, right? But before I begin, especially on this journey, I want to take a few seconds to congratulate all our newest Chief Master Sergeant selects.
Uh,
I don't receive the promotion list anymore. So, but I'm fortunate and very humbled because many of them have been contacting me just to say thanks.
Mhm.
I appreciate what you've done for me, your guidance, your mentoring. So I love that now they get an opportunity to continue to take care of our, take care and lead our newest, our newest members, because they're going to be hopefully leading each other
Yeah.
while they take care of our airmen and guardians, especially at this level. But I also want to make sure that I extend another second just to put this in the platform of natural reactions, right? They have all reached out as men. Hey, you are a great mentor. I'm only here because of the input that you had and achieving this milestone, and it's been vocalized I don't know how many times. I want to set the record straight, as I've shared with all of them individually. And for
Yeah.
your audience listeners out there,
That's right.
it's easy to get into that space because we want to thank everyone that has had a hand. What I want everyone that has gotten promoted or essentially looking at the opportunity to be promoted is to take an understanding that you do the work. Like there's an opportunity for you to kind of hold on to what has happened in your life, but you did the work. And I think because we're servant leaders, right? We're served our nation. We've kind of had this mindset of if it wasn't for someone, I wouldn't be here. Let me tell you all, you did the work.
That's
So I
right.
don't want anyone to shy away from that portion, because I think naturally we want to thank everyone except those in our inner circle, right? They usually are the last ones, not the first ones, like family members. So thank you. I really wanted to make sure and push that out, just to make sure that we get opportunities for the folks that were fortunate to be promoted, to understand their own accomplishments,
Yeah.
and the support that their families have provided them, because that's pinnacle in reaching this milestone. And
I
for those
agree.
out there who didn't get promoted, man, look, we've all been there.
Been there.
So the best advice that I can share with those is don't change a thing, because I think you're going to get your rhetoric of people who say, man, you should have done this and you should have done that. The promotion aspects are very small, as you know, for the chief rank.
Hmm.
But it doesn't stop you from acquiring the opportunity, because at this stage, after not getting promoted, most of them fall off the track. And if you fall off the track, you're just making it easier for the next guy.
Yeah.
So stay hungry
Stay
and
hungry.
keep doing what you got to do. So
I
now I'm
love
off
that.
my platform, and I guess I can answer your question.
Before you go into the next, and before I do need to acknowledge the queen is in the building. Okay, so Mrs. Ginger Miller is in the building. Okay,
Know
and so
that,
I just
lady.
wanted to acknowledge her because she is the president and CEO, and founder, if you will, of Women's Interactive Foundation. And she's doing amazing work and getting recognized for that amazing work, what she's doing on
Yeah,
behalf of women
that's true.
veterans. So
Oh yeah, I thank
I'm
you for
so
that.
glad you're here.
I appreciate that. That's Ginger is, of course, one of my board of governor colleagues, and also a presidential appointee. So that in itself speaks volumes. So I'm happy to Ginger. What's going on, girl?
She says, "Hey," and Vanity gave you some claps, so everybody is ready.
Well, look, to answer your question, my job was so many things, but I was fortunate to have a lot of great people. As I managed that position, I also managed the opportunity to select who I needed on those teams.
Hmm.
And that helped, because I think a lot of folks sometimes don't realize how important it is to pick the right people, to manage the AORs, the areas of responsibilities that are out there pertaining to the people that they're supporting. And I can honestly and openly say every one of my chiefs that were out there in those match compositions were about taking care of people.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this wasn't a bumper sticker. I'm talking about I knew them. I had worked with them. I knew the passion that they had behind the jobs. And it didn't take away from the other folks that came on afterwards, but I was very selective about the people that I knew, because the reality was that I worked for them.
Yeah.
They were the eyes and ears to the floor, and I was very ready to take on whatever it was that I needed to do in my position to instrument the changes or the resources that they needed. So I always try to make sure when people say things like, man, you ran a big program or you had a lot of people. And man, I worked for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to have climbed that opportunity to see that platform. But everything I did in life was really, it one thing washed another. So I never set a goal. I just did my job,
Yeah.
and then I was determined to try to do it better than everybody else.
Yeah, well, let me tell y'all something, okay? And he remembers, Manny remember this. So I was at Luke Air Force Base, y'all, and we had former Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force, Cleese Bright. He was doing his tours around the installations, and so he came to Luke Air Force Base, and I was a chief of the medical um,
I remember that.
superintendent, and we were like, we're gonna put this big old show on, right? Because listen, yeah, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force coming over here to the bank group.
Yeah.
So we had this big old parade and all this stuff, for Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force Khalif Wright. And here comes Chief Master Sergeant Pineiro in his uniform, y'all, and the stripes, the sleeves. It was like, I was like, you gonna hurt somebody with them sleeves,
Oh, you're
that
crazy.
crease. So when he says he's trying to do it better than the rest, I'll tell you what, people were in there scared. I was like, you better
Yeah,
not
yeah.
mess up. All
Well,
right.
I thank you for that, but it's part of the flow, right, of our
Yeah.
roles,
Yeah.
especially at that level, because we can easily just say, I don't have to do anything. I've made it.
Yeah.
But I always believe that there's always someone looking. There's always someone watching, and I'm the first person I see every day. So
That's right.
if I don't feel good about walking out my home, how do I feel about someone looking at me?
Yeah.
And it doesn't change, right? Especially now that I've transitioned. If someone calls out for me to do a keynote, I'm not showing up in flip flops. You want to make sure that they understand that you're a professional always, and that's
Absolutely.
the tone. That's a tone that automatically will grasp their attention.
Yeah.
So I always try to lead by example. As a chief, as a man, as a husband, as a father, failure is imminent, right? I think
Yeah.
we all need to swallow the lifeline of imperfection, because we were not perfect. The issue is that we can do our best to just maintain what's best for us.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of failure. I always say this generation in particular, because I have a lot of conversations with my own children.
Hmm.
But I always tell them that it's all right to fail. Right, failure is part of life, and that's how we all learn. And believe me, I've failed a lot. So
Well, speaking of that, then you tell us. Then tell us what have been your failures in your eyes, if you will, and what lesson did you learn from that?
wow. I'll tell you, man, countless of failures to get me to a point where I can try to break them down. One in particular, I'll share as a first sergeant, and this is way before my grasp on the policy positions and the special duties title. But as a young first sergeant, I think I was very stern in how I approached people.
Mm-hmm.
People used to say that I cared a lot. I really just wanted to fix the problem. So
Right.
if there was something to address, I made it a point to try to bring all the players of the problem into the room, and then break them down so that everyone was accountable for the one person's problem. Um, but I think one of the things that still kind of haunts me is the first time that I was mitigating a suicide,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not very empathetic with the situation. I was like, oh, she's just dealing with a lot of things, and I was young. My A train was always running express, so those things I never really grasped as a people problem. It was more of an environmental issue, right? Like the
Mm-hmm.
people around that person were making it hard for that person to have a work life and understand their role in the military. So I disregarded that part of it, and I went after everybody else that was invested, or at least not invested in the person. And it turned out that I lost sight of the real big problems in this person's life,
Yeah.
because it wasn't just within the scope of the professionalism. It was some other things going on that I had no essay on. So that situation, of course, it could have got worse, and the member situation probably could have got it would have been really, really bad. We were able to catch it, but man, I learned a huge lesson from that, and made it a point that if I'm the keeper of the people resource, if I'm
Yeah.
the first sergeant who's responsible for the welfare of these individuals, and the aesthetics that they bring to their families, then I need to be heavily invested in every aspect of the individual. And that was a huge switch over, right? Because now I no longer became the first sergeant for the commander. I became the first sergeant for the people.
Yeah.
And that was a huge turn of how I looked at every decision that was made after that. My focus changed a lot, and I have been in that business, but so MTI, I mean, like I saw a lot of the drive to get the mission accomplished, right?
Right.
but
Right.
but when you're in a different setting and a different mindset for what's really going to make this person thrive, then you got to look at every aspect of the individual, and that actually shaped who I became, and then of course now in transition what I do,
Yeah.
because if we've learned anything from COVID,
Anything.
is always about the people.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You're so like, because I made that mistake too, going in as a first sergeant, because I just wanted to fix all the problems, and
Yeah,
I just wanted
yeah,
to correct, people, and make sure everybody was in line,
exactly,
and
exactly.
when you're so direct and you don't give a chance for people to actually explain
There
or
you
to
go.
share the backstory
There
of
you go.
what is really happening, you miss out on information. And that's what I was doing initially too,
No, it's
until you get into human interaction and you understand what emotional intelligence
there you go.
really
There you
is
go.
about, right? You get a sense of yourself first.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because even after that happened, and of course, now I'm starting to get a little bit more, fluidity with the size of the institutions that I had, the squadrons, the groups. Then you start thinking about, man, what was I missing? So
Right.
what I did was, when I was fortunate to get into the position, I reflected back on what I needed as a young first sergeant, and what kind of training could I have had to mitigate those situations earlier in my career. And that was what I used. So when I was sitting there and I was talking with Khalif, you mentioned Chief Master Sergeant Air Force, right? My brother, right?
Hmm.
But we we can't change everything with the short amount of time that we had, but we wanted to concentrate on things that we were going to be able to do within the timeline.
Yeah.
You can't change everything, right? You have to take these small bites and try to figure out what is it that I can try to tackle. So one of the things I tackled first was bringing some of those lessons into the school, and how to change, negotiation and training. How do you navigate those opportunities for emotional intelligence? We had to change the curriculum as a whole to make sure that we can identify the challenges that were still going on. I mean, even
Hmm.
from my time, even from your time, we still had all of these things that were, being a first sergeant. And again, I'm pretty biased on that position as well, but it's challenging because folks forget that it's just one person,
Yeah.
and they think, even though we have a community, we aspire to do our best, but it's hard when you don't have the proper training. So you go become a first sergeant, they tell you kind of the things that were happening, and the school has shortened up from when I went through. So one of the things that I felt was it wasn't enough training to put out the best product, because these people are supposed to shape the world with their influence. And I
Yeah.
say the world by virtue of one airman at a time who has influence on another airman, and so on and so on. But if we're going to set them up for success, then let's properly train them to do that job. So I started speaking to my guys in the field. Hey, what was it that you wish you had? And then I started thinking about what I wish I had, and then we came up with a good solution, and it probably isn't. There's so much more, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
there
but
always will be.
but what we had and the timeline that we had, we were fortunate to be able to do some good things.
Well,
I
speaking
look.
from a chief that was out in the field, I'll tell you what I really appreciated that there was, the intensive look at what a first sergeant was to do, because I got quality first sergeants,
Yeah,
right? And that's
thank
what
you.
you're looking
Yeah,
for.
thank
It's
you.
people who are so that was their focus, was I want to take care of my people
There you go.
and do it in such a way where, people are going to come to me, they're going to share with me, and I'm going to be able to help them.
Yeah.
And that relieves a lot of stress from, from the other things that you have to do when you're in a chief's role. So
Oh,
yeah.
there's no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I,
So
yeah, I truly believed it, and enough that we were able to get some things done. I even incentivized the first sergeants. Right? I thought about, man, when's the last time we got a raise?
yeah, I remember that, because I was like, look, I want a back pay. I want a back pay.
Well, I thought we do it all the time, but then we shortfall the people who are actually doing the work.
Yeah.
So, I said, nah, we're better than this. So,
Yeah.
I was fortunate to get that done. So I really dug deep into a lot of the, internal aspects of quality, right? And it doesn't change. I think the same thing goes out now for people in corporate. If you're doing the job and you got credible people who are doing the job, then pay them appropriately.
Yeah.
Give them what they are doing for the community that they serve.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. So, one of the things that you were talking about is just having that human interaction. One of the things that I speak to here on the show is about leadership. Okay. Like there's so much to talk about leadership that you just can't, that you
Yeah,
can't like have enough time in the day,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
So, but in your bio, even you put down that you encourage people to be accountable for themselves.
That's yeah, that's so true.
So tell us what, from your experience, why that is important for you.
Well, I think we touched on this on the sidebar prior to the setting, but let's just talk military transitions, right?
Yeah.
I bring this up a lot because I wish that if we can identify that a lot earlier in your career, it actually can help you, right? It's kind of detrimental now when you get to a phase in a 20 or 25 or even 30-year mark, that we are now talking about how to transition someone out of something that they've done for a good portion of their lives,
Yeah.
right? So when I look at leadership as an opportunity to look at the platform that we have, and then do our best to instrument change to these people who eventually will have to retire, right? Our peer chiefs, officers, senior leaders, look, they all struggle with their identity. I tell you, when they get closer to retirement, it's when it's actually the worst, because now
Oh
they're trying to
yeah.
figure out, what am I going to do? I still got a child in college. I still have this mortgage. I'm still fighting with the VA. I mean, there's so many things that will hinder any movement forward, and you almost start to forget yourself and all the leadership training that you've had. I mean, I was fortunate to go to some great schools, and and this is aside from my own personal education, but like you mentioned, leadership will change because
Yeah.
generationally people change. So you have to get out of that. This is how I was taught. One of the things that I found as I was leaning in, talking to a lot of our chiefs, a lot of our peers that were getting ready to transition, was
Hmm.
things like, man, I'm old school. I'm old school. And I kept saying, hey, what does that mean, man? Like, I get it. You've been in for a minute, but there's a lot of people older than you. And
Yeah.
and that doesn't resonate well when you walk out into the corporate world. I know general officers right now who work for 30-year-olds. So I know the complexities of corporate identity because sometimes people get caught up in their military identity. So leadership sometimes is hard to try to utilize as a one goal platform because this is a mission in life. So I made it a point to start speaking to folks from where they're at. I just recently talked, did some work recently with a team about generational workshops. Like literally,
Mhm.
this is the first time in ever that we have 5 generations working in corporate America at the same time.
Yeah.
So those things are important to understand because as you transition, you may think you're the only one going through a hard time, and I'm here to tell you, as someone who went through it, it's not easy.
Yeah.
And if we, and everyone I speak with says the same thing. How is it? How was it? Is it different? And rather than to say, man, the grass is always greener, because sometimes it isn't, right? There's some days that are good and some days that are bad. I just share that it's difficult at times, but only if you allow it to be.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Because the struggle is always going to stay continuous. Um, but if you're doing the same thing, as you've always done in the military, right, it becomes a good portion of your life. That journey doesn't stop. You're always going to be thinking about that, and how to navigate through that. Because the military, look, they teach you, they train you, they educate you, they show you discipline, they discipline, right? They
Uh-huh.
provide you structure. We're fortunate. We align with great friends. We are fortunate to have extended family members, and on many occasions, purpose.
Yeah.
We get up with purpose.
Yeah.
So when all of that is gone, you got to try to figure out, oh, now what? And so I dug deep into, okay, what now that I have this thing that's kind of an open umbrella, I can't get caught up in the rumorville, right? Because that's easy. People will say things like, regardless of the struggle, man, you got, they're giving you their words of wisdom that sometimes don't make sense to you because they can't be in your shoes while you're dealing with things.
Right.
And when you start to own a lot of those internal, necessities that you're looking for, man, you just gotta just kind of sometimes go out and fail. Like
Yeah.
just figure it out
Just figure it out.
yeah, I tell this I shared this at an event one time. That fear kills dreams, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, we don't want to go out and explore that because in a pattern of a life that we've had as a military individual, we are judged, we are rated on whether or not you're good or not.
Yeah.
So for 20 plus, 30 plus years, you have someone judging you whether or not you are good enough. And I tell you that can be a hard lesson to get out of
Yeah.
because you're out
Some
there
of
trying
our
to prove yourself. Yeah.
yeah, our audience is really resonating with what you're saying, so I'll acknowledge LaShanta. She used to, a lot of us grew up into adults during those 20 years in the military, and third of my life was, from the military too. I totally understand. We base life off of what we've learned
There you go.
during that time.
There you go.
So when
And
it's time to transition, we just fall back on some of those habits or standards or
yes,
routines
yes.
that may not be serving us well when we get into our next. And then Mary's on here. Hey, Mary. She says this is true. Rank has no bearing on the struggle to reestablish our identity. When you were talking about the rank, and some folks, are now being, um, directed and led by 30-year-olds, and they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah,
And then Mary's, of course, giving some love to LaShanta, because her entire adult life was in uniform.
exactly.
So,
Exactly. This transition aspect is difficult. I've spoken to, our current Chief Master on the Air Force, Joe Bass, about it
mhm,
when I transitioned, and I told her, I said, we need to, it's nice to get the whole resume writing and it's nice to learn a
oh, yeah.
little bit of the corporate, dialogue and the lingo. At the end of the day, what we're missing is an opportunity to teach people how to emotionally transition out of this thing into society, right? Back into society. It sounds like you're almost coming out of prison, right?
Yeah.
But an institution does that, right? It locks you
Yeah.
into their way. You know what time you have to do certain things. So this is one of the reasons that when I found my want to do, right, because this is what I really try to preach on. It's important for me to have a platform now to echo this as much as possible, because we need to find ways to make sure it's that whatever we choose to do is something that we want to do,
Yes.
and not what you have to do.
Yes.
That's I think sometimes is the leverage that we've owned for so long, right? I always look at it. It's no longer a TDY. We should be aligned with opportunity for some positive permanent duty station in life.
Yeah.
I only said that for the military in the jargon, right?
Right. Right.
But we get into our lives, and it's almost like a term contract. And you know what that is, right? It's an obligation, right? A contractual obligation.
Yeah. Condition of employment. Yeah.
Yeah. So every contract obligation requires two people, right? Or persons that actually have an opportunity to measure out, the offer and the acceptance, right? The problem is that we are usually on the receiving end of that decision, right? We're not thinking about it, because retirement is not easy. It's just not easy.
It's not. And the other thing that I found too was when you talk about that emotional aspect of transition, I learned that there were some phases,
Oh
and
yeah.
I didn't really
Oh yeah.
know that,
Yeah.
I just thought, hey, you retire and you just move on, right? But when I found myself crying and frustrated and asked myself, what are we doing? We shouldn't have never, retired, those things kind of, get planted in your
That's
mind.
right. You start
It's
doubting
like,
yourself. That's right.
yeah, you get into this, I'm free, right? You're like, you're excited. Like I get to do whatever I want to be doing.
Right. Your retirement is a termination clause.
You're right. Hey, so you go and you're
I,
doing.
I look at that contract and you're saying, I'm no longer locked into this contract. So
Yeah.
now I got to find, look, and I think, and I saw that Mary's out there. So Mary, thank you so much for chiming in. But I always look at people who are now drafting their own contracts.
Yeah.
That's a powerful statement in life.
Yes.
It's the realtor who's no longer looking for a house for someone. You're looking for your house, and you're looking for your piece of property, and how are you planting seeds into that house, right? So figuring it out sometimes is difficult, but we're fortunate if we understand the strategy that's out there. It's really set up for us to fail. And I've watched a lot of people get caught up in that trap. A chief, 30 years, retires, and the phone rings and they take the first job they got, and so they don't really understand the worth of what they brought to the institution for so long. Look, it happened to me when I first decided to get into this space, right? Everybody was like, oh, I remember him, he's a great chief, and so I did everything I could to kind of wash that off of the page. But what they wanted was an opportunity for me to still be the chief. So I would get things like, hey, if you got some time, we would love for you to come out and speak to so-and-so. And I go, oh, are they an FTech class? Like, like, is this like, how much do they actually know about leadership? And, am I reminding them? Because what we end up doing is transforming ourselves right back into the same seats that we had. So I made it a point that I was not going to let myself get cheated, because I knew what I can bring to a platform.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes a lot of us, and I talk about retired senior enlisted leaders. I think we don't own what we have been able to accomplish in our career. If we have had a successful career, then somebody or someone has advocated for that. Someone has told us, man, you're good at what you do. And so you got to start believing some of that. And so, I mean, I really did some homework before I decided to jump out here. I wanted to make sure that I stayed loyal to myself, before I jump out there and try to pretend to be someone. We got enough imposters in the world. That's a whole different topic that I've been hearing so much about. But we got a lot of fakers out there who just are trying their best to lean into someone's weak area of their life. So
Yeah.
they're suffering. They want to be able to just shape them up with some words of wisdom, but they don't really believe in what they're saying. They're just, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
I am a fan of authenticism. You know, one of the reasons when you reached out to me and I didn't hesitate to tell you is because what you see is what you push, right? Who you are is who you are. And for
Who
me,
else am I gonna be?
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And that's the
Yeah.
thing that I think a lot of people want to be what they admire, right?
Yeah.
And that's nice, right?
Yeah.
But they lose sight of who they are.
Yeah.
And my success, if any success that I've had, was always based around the people I surrounded myself with. So, I believe in the loyalty to me before I push out loyalty to anyone else. Growing up in New York, if anything, it just gave me focused. It kept me focused on the things that the people that I can trust
Yeah.
or let into my space. Because being loyal to yourself means treating yourself, with kindness and forgiveness. There's a lot of people out there who don't know anything about that. you know
Yeah.
so I watched a lot of people make decisions that I was not too happy about because it wasn't anything close to the way I wanted to, the way I wanted to work. I used to tell audiences in the military, man, how do you want to be remembered?
Oh man, I was gonna ask you that, but
Yeah.
we gonna get that answer
But
before you before you
I'm grateful. I'm so grateful though, girl.
before you
That's it.
move on just a second here,
Yeah,
because I this what you're saying is so powerful and so like it's a real deal. And y'all, he is the real deal. Okay. This is who I've known for a minute. And we've had some conversations and it ain't changing. Okay. But I do want to share with you, what Kanita just said, because she said we must know our worth.
There you go.
If we don't know who we are, people will tell us
That's right.
who to be.
That's true. Say it again, Nita. Say it again.
I
Yeah. Look,
understand. Like,
loyalty is, I'll tell you, and I'm big about this thing, man, because I'm living it every day. Loyalty to me is like Wi-Fi. Sometimes we get poor connection. You know what I'm saying? It's a hit or miss on where you're sitting and who you're sitting around that's going to bring out the best in you.
yes.
I'm a fan of that. This whole iron sharpens irons. I love all the metaphors that are out there, but it's really based on who you surround yourself with. And if you want to succeed, then you got to find people in your life that want you to succeed. You know what I'm saying? It's not about looking at someone and using them as to leverage your success. No one knows. Look, I'm open about this. You on a live channel. Simon Sinek is a great author. He's a great speaker. But Simon Sinek spent 32 years in the military.
Hello.
So I
Hello.
can bring a little caveat to what I know based on my journey. And that's really what this business of making time count is about. It's about hearing what you got to bring to the table. Mm-hmm. It's about listening, having people listen to your life and your struggles and your challenges, and then finding a way to mitigate that because your success has told the story of your challenges and obstacles. And now you have an opportunity to share that because look, Slay, we have all been there. We have all struggled. We have all been challenged. Look, people, I you know what I love? When people think they know everything they know about me. And they don't know anything. They only know what they want me to let them know. We have all been dealing with life. And life, man,
life be lifing. Life is lifing. And it's just people will see, why? Because they see us on the medias, right? And we are not afraid to be on social media, y'all. We are out here because we are trying to share with the world what we're doing.
Yeah.
But people already make assumptions without even asking about what you're about. And I have walked into some spaces and people are trying to call me out. Oh, I know what you be doing. Look, you don't know my schedule. You don't know where I be. all the time.
So that's what I'm saying. And I think for a long time, because we're so giving, right? We're so
Yeah,
open. Um, we really have to learn to be selfish.
yeah,
And I don't mean that in a hard or really negative way. I'm talking about what's important to you uh, has to stay important. Like you have to practice putting your needs first. Because if you want to success, look, you're the only one that's going to have to make it happen. People can set you up, send you to classes, set you down with some people who may, have a little bit more opportunities to share their input, their knowledge. But the way I see things is that if you're not practicing putting your needs first, right? Like
yeah,
what's important today may not be important tomorrow, right? That's why we mitigate so many different platforms. That's why, hey, no one's calling me to be a keynote. Well, maybe I put my concentrated efforts at another form of getting the message out. You know what I'm saying? So that to me means more, right? I had somebody tell me one time, man, I'm so surprised that you've been retired now going on what 4 years and you have not written a book. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. Do you know how long it takes to write a book?
uh, yeah,
So I said, so I'm gonna just toss out a good number because I've known some great authors, and I know,
yeah,
and I have colleagues who are authors, as you.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
said, sitting down to write a book takes about a good 2 years, right?
A good
Give or
2 years.
take 2 years if you're lucky, right? If you have your chapters laid out, if you have your preface, if you have all that you want to do, it takes a good substantial amount of time. My focus is to live in the moment. So if I'm taking 2 years out of my life to write a book, that's 2 years less that I have to do what I want to do, not what someone thinks I need to do. And I'm a fan. Look, eventually I may sit down, go back to Belize and join my sister on an island and do my memoirs and put something out.
Yeah,
But I'm trying to live today so that I can concentrate all my efforts on the moment. Because for a long time, I was living for somebody else. I was
that's
living on
right.
someone else's platform. I was living on somebody else's schedule. I was living on someone else's environment. I am now in a position where I get to dictate what I want to do. And that is priceless.
Yeah,
Priceless. So yeah, girl. I'm a true fan of knowing that.
yeah. Well, we've got a lot of folks on here who are just, dropping these gems. Dwayne is he who walks with the wise will become wise.
No doubt.
Yes,
No doubt.
absolutely.
No
And
doubt.
Mary, she says she knows how long because she just
Yeah,
published her book.
Mary just pushed her book and
Mary is like, and if I had it here in my desk, I would flash it to the people. Oh, I
get
got it
some
right
free
here.
PA out there.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
here y'all
Final
go.
debrief.
Okay. So, this is her latest and greatest, Mary Polanco. If you have
Yeah,
not picked this up, it's a short read. All
yeah,
right.
yeah,
So,
no doubt.
something to help. And we're just, all we're trying to do is help.
That's
Okay.
right. This is all about
Um,
lifting each other, man.
yeah.
We talked about earlier about the teams and such, and I think
Yeah.
that's so essential, especially in this movement that's going on amongst us retired chiefs and people who have had an opportunity to influence. I've always been a team player, right? But
Yeah.
I was not out to be the high scorer. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
if people understand that, then they'll have a better opportunity to understand that just being on a great team will influence change in your life. And that's all I've been trying to kind of persuade folks to understand is that, because there's a lot of, the drill, Slay. We got a
Yeah.
lot more takers than givers out here. And as I started to transition out of the military, you start really identifying who's got your best interest, right? Who's reaching out at your lowest, and those things matter because
Yeah.
I remember a good friend of mine, Vic Gilroy, man, he's my brother.
Mhm.
But Vic made a point to tell me really young in the military, man, have you identified the 6 people who are going to carry your casket? And that was hard. Like that was hard for me. Like I was like,
Wow.
one, I wasn't ready to die yet, but it was such a powerful statement that I was like, man, he and his his intention was to say, because it matters.
Oh, wow.
So I never forgot that, and I made a point to like make sure that my circle and my trusted alliances were people that if anything ever happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
I know they got me.
That's right.
I know they're 100. You know.
Yeah.
So if I could multiply those 6 people into 12 and 12 into 30, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
as we can continue to grow this and grow and build this temple that we're trying to build for humanity, man, that's what it's really about. That's what leaving your legacy is about. Is
Yeah.
just leaving it better, a little better than when you had it, you know?
That's right. Yeah, and we're in alignment with all that, because when you said we get to, do now what we want to do, I'm always in the space of I want to do these things.
There you
All
go.
right,
There you go.
this is a time based on experiences, our skill set,
There you go.
our ability to, make ish happen when it needs to happen. And you know what? We're doing it. And the way that we're doing it, especially with the team of us that I see as we're stepping out, we're all saying the same things, but in a different way, in our own way,
Yes.
and bringing in different voices, different people with different backgrounds into, and I call it the ecosystem. All right. So we have this big old ecosystem, and, helping people to see that you can do these things too. You don't have to jump into something that you're not going to get that sense of fulfillment, that
Oh yeah.
you're not going to
Oh
feel
yeah.
like you have lived that life.
There you go.
You know what I'm
There you go.
saying?
No, no,
So,
you're spot on. I think
yeah.
at one point in our lives, we all deserve to live on our terms, you know,
Yeah.
and how you live is really, is your family at its healthiest? Are you healthy? Are you at your healthiest? Are you happy? I mean, are you happy? Are you surrounded with people that you make happy?
Yeah.
Happiness is, it's an easy tag word, man. But if you don't feel it, then you don't got it. You don't have it.
Um,
And I'm blessed. I have such a great foundation. I have a wife that I've been married to for 32 years. I've known her 39 years out of my life. Like I've known her longer than I've known my family,
right.
because she not only took the road with me, but she did the tour with me. It's not just a matter of I saw her and then I PCS'd.
Right.
It was like she PCS too. And so when you have that type of connection from very young in your life, you realize that you're full of flaws. Like I know my flaws
Yeah.
because someone needed to check me when I was abusing them.
Yeah.
And so when you have that type of person that stands by, supports, and continues to provide so that you can thrive and make change for others, there's not a better feeling. And again, on my terms, right? On our terms. So that's the true happiness that I'm trying to figure out. And what people are lacking in their lives to try to get to that place. Because at one point or another, they had it too, right? But
Yeah.
they just stopped. They just stopped, giving it. They stopped communicating. They stopped. Though people ask me about books, I get this all the time when I do these podcasts. So what are your books, right? And I tell them, man, you want a great book on life, getting the love you want.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That book is I put it out there as a great guide for couples, and I say that openly because even in my transition, my family struggled
Yeah.
because I no longer had somewhere to go or be, and I was now on the receiving end of, yo man, we gonna have a conversation, we gonna talk. Back in the days, it was like, I can't, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you realize how important that communication really is.
Yeah.
So that's my leadership toss book out there to the world.
Well, look, that we'll take it. And I like, yes, because when you're talking about that self leadership, it always comes up in conversation when I have a guest here, because there's a lack of of understanding or tapping into your self leadership when
Oh, yeah.
you start to transition. But for, many of us, it's been foundational. It's been like, okay, let me pick myself up and let me figure out the next way forward.
No
So,
doubt.
we also here to always talk about wellness because I think that's
Mm.
so important. You touched a little bit about happiness, but what are some ways that you're taking care of yourself because you are ripping and roaring? You're on roller skates right now, and
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
I
So
see you moving and shaking and baking. But are you what strategies are you using, or what kind of?
So I've, I think I shared this recently on a post that I pushed out where I probably was the most vulnerable that I've ever been at in my life, right? Sharing more things about myself in a public forum with probably total strangers, right? But I think that vulnerability needed to be shared because I think for a long time, for a lot of reasons, we all fear any negative, you know, conversations that have anything to deal with us. And I'm in that, reminding people, right, about finding
Mhm.
purpose. And I think sometimes if you're not honest with yourself, then you're gonna lose your own personal credibility. So I pushed out, roughly about 8, 9 months ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. I had thyroid cancer.
Oh,
And yeah, yeah. So no, this is real talk. I was able to catch it early,
wow.
and enough that it was really caught unexpectedly. Like I went to see my doc, and he said, "When's the last time you had a full physical?" And I said, "Well, not probably since I retired." And even though in the military we ain't really getting no real physicals,
That's right.
but it ignited enough opportunity for him to say, why don't we just do a whole full body CT scan?
Yeah.
And I went and did it, and man, I came back, that I had a couple of nodules, and then next thing you know, within uh, 3, 4, I think maybe 4 months, it was 5 nodules, and they were metastasizing so fast, and I'm a healthy cat, like I spend a
Yeah.
lot of time working out,
Yeah.
eating right, but what it reminded me was exactly what my mantra is saying is that we ain't promised jack. So at any given time, it could all be taken away. And then you got to ask yourself, what do I have to show for it?
Wow.
So it really became my testimony. And I
Yeah.
had an opportunity to really own what was going on because I was suffering in silence for a long time. It took me a long time to even tell my family. And my wife is in the healthcare business. So I was so tattooed, right? I was so trained that this is something I got to deal with. This is something that, I can't look like I'm defaulting, right? Like I had to become, I didn't want to continue to be the rock because for a long time, that's who we become. That's that
Mhm.
imposter piece, right? That we
Yeah.
want to share with the world that everything that we touch is Midas, and that what we the way we live our lives. And look, man, we all got flaws, and so I realized that it had to be on my terms. I had one of my cousins, she reached out, Naomi reached out to me, and she's a breast cancer survivor, but she
Mhm.
was telling me, look, you have to tell the story, but you tell it when you're ready. Like you have to
Right.
share this at your terms, and you'll know. And I'll tell you, she was absolutely right. I didn't want this to be about me anymore. I wanted people to understand that if you see me a certain way, then you better realize that we all have fragility for life. So taking care of yourself is a great gold mine. I'm in a better place. I've since had surgery. I got like one treatment left of radiation, but I'm open to share that with you because my objective here is to live. Right? We got work to do, and so these platforms provide me opportunities to tell you that I'm so proud of you, girl. I want you to understand that it takes beyond courage to do what you're doing because a lot of folks will run from that. They think it's work, and I laugh when people say that, like because we've been working for a long time, and now guess what you're doing? You're working on yourself, and that's what I'm trying to push for people to understand is that I get the job, I get the hustle, I get it that we all got to find ourselves in that position, but when you stop living with purpose, when you stop thriving because you just happy to be alive. It becomes more than just words, right? You know, I hear people say that all the time, man. I'm just happy to have another day. Okay, so cool. So what you doing? Like what you doing with it? You know? And I look, and most of my stuff ain't always about a corporate, you know, a check, right?
Right.
I just came back from New York doing some real give back time in Flatbush, Brooklyn, with schools that just trying to, you know, have hope in their lives. And if I could do anything to aspire that, come on, man. You know, I met this teacher, 24 years in the industry, and she used to work for MTV
Mm,
and left and in a very executive position and left to teach because she grew up in Bed-Stuy. She knows the environment. So her give back, man, all it did is give me fuel to get a better understanding that, man, I ain't alone. But we got to have these people tell their stories, and if I can assist in telling their stories, then that's what we're supposed to be doing. You
that's
know,
right. And you know what? I am very, I would say, humbled, but grateful at the same time that you shared with us in this space, because it's easy for us to live these infallible lives, and people do consider us to be somewhat untouchable. Like we have had our stuff together, and oh yeah, you, yeah, you should be here. You should be doing these things here.
yeah,
And when we decide that that's not what we want to do, we want to help others in a different way. And I know, for me, speaking for me, this doesn't seem like work for me.
there you go,
I guess it's just to show up,
there
be
you go,
me,
there you go,
and do what it is that I know people are asking me for, and just to have a platform.
there you go.
This is just a platform for people like yourselves to come share. Todd was sharing his vulnerability story.
Yeah,
Glow was on here and she
that's no
shared
problem.
her vulnerability story. Mary was on here and shared her vulnerability story. So
We all got
when,
them. We all
yeah,
got
we
them.
all do. And so when we can openly just tell people, like, yeah, we're dealing with stuff,
That's right.
you
That's
know?
right. That's right. You know,
And
and it's mindfulness. I think, you know, we talk about
yeah,
that a lot. You know, I'm still learning every day about so many different things, right? That's the love of life that I have, is I try to grasp information on every subject that I'm curious about. But when we lose being mindful of ourselves, and being true to yourself, you know, how can you go out there and then, you know, fake the funk, really, right? How can you share information with people when you're not really even being truthful to yourself about life?
right.
So I wanted to be an honest broker all the way through. You know, when I have an opportunity to speak with, you know, corporate agencies for either their leadership workshops or, you know, a keynote, whatever it is that I'm doing for them, I always go back to the senior director or somebody in their executive team who extended the invitation, and then I sit down with them, and then I ask them why. Like, you know, I get it, I get you know a little bit about me, but why did you find that space for what I brought to the table? Because what I don't want to hear is, man, everybody has been talking about you,
Right.
or you know, word of mouth, so and so called me from Sonic and said that you are killing the game, you know. uh I'd rather just get to know the individuals, and then and most of the time those actually become my coaching sessions, right? I go from an event to now coaching those executives
Right.
on how to maneuver through some of the things that they're dealing with, because, you know, I used to say in the military, everybody got a boss. Same thing for corporate America.
Hmm.
So there's no real change in how we have instrument our craft. It's just a different, you know, different dialogue, different mindset. But man, being mindful of yourself, man. If I can leave anybody with that lasting tagline, you got to know yourself. You got to know. You got to believe in you before you believe what people are saying about you.
Yeah. I love that, because it's a reminder for me every single day.
Yeah,
And one of the things that, of course, our brother Todd, who's, he's out there slaying it. But one of the things that he brought up in one of our conversations that I just stayed with me was our are, what they said about me, is that as good as, they put it on the paper all the time, right? EPRs,
Oh yeah.
OPRs.
Oh yeah.
Are we as good as they say we are?
Yeah.
You know?
Most of us aren't.
Exactly. So, it's like, can
Yeah.
I live up that? That's a challenge. That's
Oh
a
yeah.
challenge to see if we
Oh
can
yeah.
actually live up to what people have said.
It's so true.
And, and we're doing it on our own terms. Now, Keith, your brother, is on here asking a
AC.
question. He got a question. So I said,
Okay.
all right, Keith. He said, how do you find the balance of going after a paycheck versus going after purpose? It seems everybody wants a person time to make profit. It
Okay.
seems everybody wants a person time to make profit. He gonna have to clean that up for me. He's gonna have to put that into the comments. All right, because I don't know what that last part meant.
He's,
But
you know what it is? He's so nervous about retiring
oh,
around.
I know. That's why we're gonna help him.
Uh, well, look, I can touch on the first part. I think the balance of going after a paycheck versus going after purpose. So how do you
Yeah,
find that? It goes back to what we talked about earlier: doing what you want to do and not what you think you have to do. I am, one of the things that leverages opportunity is influence, especially in the military. So if you had a prestigious position, if you had good rapport with, GOs or senior leaders in the military, they won't forget that. Right? Most of those people are gonna call you for events or try to reach out and say, "You got a moment? I work for this company now," and so you leverage the relationship because that's part of your network power, right?
yeah,
But you don't want to fall short of reminding yourself why am I doing this? Because again, am I doing this because they called me, or am I doing this because I want to do this? And for me, it's important, right? Because an
yeah.
hour and a half, a 60 or 90-minute session with someone is not about the check, right? I'm not
Right,
providing you an invoice after we speak. I rather it be something that I'm passionate about, and that I'm going to be able to know that when I leave that stage, that audience is going to be like, yo, where have you been?
right.
Like that to me is a little bit more of the intent behind the purpose piece, because my purpose doesn't change. I put it out there. One of the first things I did was, I took the directives of the military and I analyzed what I had to do to create the mantra that I've been saying for so long. And I touch on this with a lot of people, because a lot, what I get at times, man, I want to do what you do.
Yeah,
And so
I'm
I
there
I
too.
get it. Thank you, but this is not easy. And by the way, I've been doing this for a long time. So now it's just a matter of, this is an extension, right? The branch off of the tree has now, flourished, and I'm trying to use that as an opportunity to tell people that if you've been inspiring folks for so long, then think about the impact that they're having on the people that they have now under their watch. If it
Yes,
still resonates, then you may be doing something really good. But your brand, and you touch on this a lot, is so important, because if you retire, let's just say you retired on Friday and Monday you starting your job and you pop out and your social media says, this is what I am and this is who I do. You know what I'm going to see? Some
what's that?
real plastic.
Right.
Because
I call them Decepticons,
if I
man.
knew you, then that's something that you would have been talking about for the longest.
Right.
But I'm a fan of authenticism, man, and I truly believe in the foundation of your heart. And if it's something that you've been talking about forever, it's going to be seamless for you to get out to the world, you know.
That's
And
what I try to tell the folks that, are asking. They're asking about these taglines and, how you come up with this stuff, and it's like it wasn't what's been downloaded in your heart. All
there you
right.
go.
What
There
what
you go.
has
There
what
you
have
go.
you, yeah, in here, instead of you taking somebody else's stuff and just starting to use it and it don't even sound right.
Yeah, yeah.
And and for you, like, making time count has always been a thing as long as I've known you. I even got your coin, making time count. I mean,
I love
That's
it.
what you stand on,
Yeah.
and that's what you are known for,
Yeah.
you know?
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll tell you, I believed in that mantra for as long as I've been in the military. I've been saying that. I used to always it used to be just the coin, right? Don't count time, make time count. And then
Yep.
I just made it a point to continue it into this because I really, like, when I had my coin and I was giving them out, or even when I was using it in a speech, or just reminding folks of the importance of time and the fact that you're not getting these moments back, I started to not take my own medicine. Like, I literally was
Mm.
selling the tagline, right? But I wasn't living it the way I wanted to. Like, I started this with me, and I
Right.
totally forgot myself in it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then when I realized that, yo, you better than this. And by the way, this is supposed to be your life motto. So where we at? And it was a lot of one-on-ones, right? Where you have to think through what is it that you're trying to do. Girl, look, I'm 55 years old. I got maybe possibly in a good life 20, 25, I say
Maybe.
30. I
Yeah.
love to push for another 50,
Right.
but I could walk out the street tomorrow and get hit by a bus. so so my reality is that I'm not a pessimist. I'm just trying to live what I can live with now. And I don't, God bless my brother. People always trying to compare the hustle that I have with with Todd. I love him, right? But I'll
Yeah.
tell you that he's him and I, as much as we believe in the same platform, we're in different spaces, right?
Yep. Yep.
Because what his generated goal is probably not where I want to be, right?
Right.
And so that's another thing that I want to push on a lot of people, is that when you see us moving and shaking these trees, right? That pile of leaves ain't for everybody. So you got to really think about your own personal space, your happiness, what's good for you. What are you living in, right? Within the boundaries that you want to set for yourself. And then use that as a platform. I try to make sure that if I can leverage folks to just think about their time and how it's
Hmm.
being utilized, that's enough for me. If I
Right.
can leave you thinking, making time count, damn. That's why I ask people all the time, what does it mean to you? And if I have any input, how do I remind you of that? Because it's not real. This ain't about me no more. It's never been in that forecast. It's really, I want you to challenge yourself and think about what you have in your life and how are you making your time count.
Hmm.
Because you ain't got to impress me. You ain't gotta go out and do the things that I'm doing. I just need you to look at your life and figure out if it's the life that you want,
Right.
because there's a lot of people out there who are not happy
Oh, I
and
know.
they continue to do the same thing.
Yeah, which is it's kind of crazy to me. Like the mindset, right?
Yeah,
And it's just I don't understand how people get into that, but it happens, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I,
status quo, I just
it's training, girl. For the folks in the military, we've been trained, man, and
yeah,
I think that we're always looking for someone's approval. And
yeah.
with that, again, there's that EPR for life, right? And that they think that they got to get that 5 to be able to see another year. I'm like, man, you
Right.
crazy. Let me
Well,
tell you,
again, when you're in it, that's what you know.
yeah,
That's what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
vying for. And
yeah,
so it's everything, really.
yeah. No, no,
And
I
then when
believe
you
it.
when you transition, you be like, what was happening there?
Look, let
What
me tell you the
happened?
crazy stuff I used to do, and I used to sell this. I used to go back every year and reflect on my career, like the years worth of stuff that you talked about earlier. That most of the time we try to get validation from, and we know most of the stuff was like, man, somebody wrote the hell out of this package.
Hmm.
But I got to a point where self-preservation became secondary. And I used to go back through all my book, my big binder of EPRs, right? And feel like I was getting validated by the things that I was reading.
Mm.
Crazy, ain't it? Like literally it wasn't what I was doing, because I was fortunate to have been able to do a lot of things, but I needed self-credibility for what people were saying. And then I was like, what the hell am I doing? And so, I was like a master sergeant by then, and I realized, nah, man,
That's
I gotta do me. This is all I know. So
yeah.
I just shifted the throttle and went a different route, and I just started living the way I want to be remembered, the way I want to live. Right. I'm busting to take care of so many people that I got to start with my own house, my own family,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
let me stop giving them, these after party meals and start fulfilling their entrees up front.
Right.
Yeah.
The after party meals. Hey, can you tell everyone a little bit about Making Time Count LLC?
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
little brief, and
No doubt.
then about your USO journey.
Oh no, no, believe me, I was blessed with that when I received that notification. Uh, people always ask me things like, "Man, how did that happen?" I was always involved with the USO in some format or way, but you don't ever expect to get notified that the POTUS nominated you for a position. That was really.
I like. First of all, I'm just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
POTUS,
it's funny,
POTUS.
Ginger's out there, right? But
Oh, I know.
Ginger and I had this conversation, because she was like, "Man, how'd you get this? Like, how do people ask me all the time how to get that." Ginger and I, Ginger's former military, right? Navy.
Yeah.
But she and I have had different paths. We both from New York. We admire the thrive that we've had with each other, but even we're still in awe of each other. Like
Yeah.
I love what she's doing. Actually, I think I reached out to you on a segue and letting her know that I'm so happy you guys had an opportunity to finally
Oh,
meet.
yeah. I am
But
so like
so
she.
our passions were contagious because
Yeah.
we know where we came from,
Yeah.
and we kind of saw what was going on in our lives at that time. Look, her and I were, I think it was last year actually. We were at Times Square, right, at Nasdaq, and we're outside looking at the screen on the wall, and we're seeing ourselves. Now I
Oh.
gotta tell you, some people would say things like, "Man, I ain't supposed to be here." Girl, I was like, "It's about damn time." Like I've been busting my butt for quite some time. So I didn't want to take the this journey of humility,
Yeah.
because I think we do that every day as we serve. But I think at times we have to be aggressive with what you expect out of your own life, right?
Right.
The days of saying things like, "Man, I'm just so happy." I remember when I would get promoted, or you go through the follow through of thanking everybody, just like I shared earlier,
Yeah.
and you don't think about, man, I really busted my ass this year,
Yeah.
like so. Yeah,
I
maybe
earned
I
that.
did deserve this,
Yeah.
and then you're questioning it. So those things is exactly so the USO thing, huge platform. My old boss is now the chairman, so you can imagine how that. I walked into my very first meeting. I walked in and he's there, but he's there because he was the former CSAF, right?
Right.
And he goes, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, "What are you doing here?" We had no clue of the expectations, and so I tell
Oh,
folks now, my old boss is my new boss, right?
right.
General Goldfein is the chairman, but he's a great freaking leader, So I'm just humbled to be able to sit down again, and just listen and be an advocate, because that's what we were when we served, is that we just kind of had the pulse of the enlisted force, and then we provided him the opportunity. And the biggest part out of that is that he just listened, and then he drove. He trusted us.
Yeah. Yeah.
The format to trust and leadership is powerful, man, because we were all on the same page to make sure that we're doing the one thing that we were set out to do, and that's to take care of our people. So
Yeah.
that by itself was huge. Making time count, slow but purposeful transition. The whole process of reminding people that what we do every day is about humanity, and how we interact with each other says a lot about who we want to be, as people. Who do you want to influence? Who do you want to have an impact with? And then really to remind folks, that if you truly believe that this is what you have in your life, then let's work to get you to where you will be at your best. Because
Yeah,
we do a lot of being the best for someone else,
we do.
but we don't really have an opportunity at times to concentrate on ourselves. You may tell somebody may say, "Hey, have you read this book?" Uh, but even reading a book, right? If you read Mary's book and I read Mary's book, we're both going to take something different from it
Yeah, absolutely.
because we're going to attribute it to the journey that we've had.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's something that I don't think we are very vocal about. We don't talk to each other about all that it took to get to where you were at.
Yeah.
We just like to surround ourselves with people who are getting to that place. You know? So I think the journey is really personal, but if you share it enough with people, then you start seeing a lot of similarities, and you
Yeah.
start saying, "Man, you know what? I wasn't alone when I was going through this." So that's why I'm transparent in my views these days. It's really about owning my space, and without being callous. Right? I'm not a nasty person. I don't walk around and tell you what to do. I
Right.
just tell you what's going on with me, and if something that you can see yourself in, then I'm sure you'll find it. But and I'm the look. I've shared so much. I think somebody mentioned on your show, right? Words of wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
I could have probably put together a little pamphlet of those things.
Yeah,
But
you already did.
I'm trying to share with folks is that they all have this, you know. So tell your story, man. Like get out there and tell your story, because that's gonna provide you your authentic self. That's gonna provide you your purpose, and this is what it's really about. Making time count is how are you making your time count. You know,
Yeah. Well, it was a very great conversation, more than great, of course, because it reminds us that we have a lot more to do with the time that we have, and you know, through our interactions here on the platform, off on the platform, it's just a great way for us to kind of talk these things out with our audience, and just to help inspire and positively influence some
there's no
folks to
doubt.
think about their life a little bit more
There you
differently,
go. There you
right?
go. Look, if you can find space to make every moment of your journey count, then you'll find that it's worth. And when you find that worth, then you're unstoppable, man. I
Yeah,
I I, I put it out to the universe. If you find your worth, then whatever you put your worth into is you. This is like your part to make a difference in whatever it is that you're tackling. So, for those out there who are trying to figure things out and saying, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And at the end of the day, you could do whatever you want to do. You know, don't
yeah.
don't don't shy away from if. I got a good brother. Every time I say something like, "Man, I'm going to try," he says, "Stop it. You ain't trying nothing. Like you gonna go do it." And then I go, "You damn right, man. I'm gonna go do it." But you need people again that believe in you, not
Yeah,
what you're gonna do. Just
yeah,
believe in you.
yeah,
Believe in what you want to do, and everything else is Mickey Mouse. I don't
yeah.
put no concentration on what people think I should be doing. I don't try to worry about people who say, "Hey, have you thought about doing this versus that?" I go, "Nah, man, I,
No, man,
I'm
I'm
good."
good.
I'm good.
Yeah, I say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I
Yeah,
want to do
yeah.
it.
And if you want to dabble, cool. I'm not
Yeah.
in that. I'm not dabbling. I found what I love, and I'm in it. I'm in it all the way.
Yeah. Well, I want to first of all say thank you for coming to tonight's
Oh, man.
show,
Uh,
and being a featured guest. This was absolutely amazing, and our audience took a lot from it. For all y'all that hung out with us tonight, thank you so much for being here. We
no doubt.
appreciate
No
you
doubt.
commenting and
Thank you. Thank you so
engaging and
much.
participating. All right. In this conversation, because as we all know, life is hard,
That's
but
right.
it could be better when we have folks that are just coming out and just sharing what we can and how we can to inspire you all. And so, um, you got the final comments, Manny. So what is some things that you want to say before we jump off?
Look, I think you touched on it. I'll echo the thank yous. I used to tell folks all the time I like to start and end every conversation with a thank you. So I will share. I appreciate you. I'm honored that we were able to connect and finally get this done. I know our schedules were kind of crazy, but it doesn't take away from what I shared earlier. How I'm so proud of you, and you and your family, and the successes that you continue to dive into. I feel great because I know the support that you have.
Oh,
I know what Dom brings to your life. I know what your children bring to your life, and that by far is the starter kit for everything else you should have going on. So,
everything.
so live in that moment, live in that, man. Just get in that bath and just hang out for a while, and just realize that there's nothing better than that, because everything from that is what creates what you do.
Yeah.
So thank you for the folks that chimed in and were able to at least sit and take some time with this. Time is important for me. So if you took an hour and a half of your life to sit and do this, that means this is important to you. So I appreciate that very much. And of course, we're in the holiday season. So I will say, may God continue to bless all of you as you begin this journey in this holiday season, and don't ask for nothing. You have so much to give. Feel me?
Mm.
You feel me?
Oh yeah. Why? Hey, you might need to say that to my 13-year-old who's over here opening the stuff up.
Nah,
He got a little PowerPoint. I'm like, dude, we not doing
I
PowerPoints.
try to tell you that sometimes we have too much, and I think that we don't really take time to understand all that we are fortunate to have.
Yeah.
A little bit of time don't hurt no one, but not having it, you'll know.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Well, thank you so much. For y'all who are still hanging out, please know we will be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the Slate to Success Talk Show with another great guest. And if you are still hanging out with us, please share, 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 share.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
your folks put down here hashtag replay into the comments so we know that they came back and they took the time to kind of listen. We'll make some comments there. So, as I close out this show, as you all know what the saying is, keep on slaying until
Right,
you can't slay no more.
right,
And we will see you all very soon.
right.
Blessings and have an amazing night and amazing week.
No doubt. Thank you.
Bye, y'all.